Good evening. This is Shormishta welcoming you to Reader's Retreat. Our story for today is a story by Satyajit Ray. Satyajit Ray, born in 1921, he is regarded as one of the greatest filmmakers of modern times. He is also a master storyteller. Our story, Potol Babu film star, is translated from Bengali into English by the author himself. Potol Babu film star. Potol Babu had just hung his shopping bag on his shoulder when Nishikanto Babu called from outside the main door. "Potol, are you in?" "Oh yes," said Potol Babu. "Just a minute." Nishikanto Ghosh lived 3 houses away from Potol Babu in Nepal Bhattacharjee Lane. He was a genial person. Potol Babu came out with the bag. "What brings you here so early in the morning?" "Listen, Potol, what time will you be back?" "In an hour or so." "Why?" said Potol Babu. "I hope you will stay in after that. I met my youngest brother-in-law in Netaji Pharmacy yesterday. He is in the film business in the production department. He said he was looking for an actor for a scene in a film they are now shooting. The way he described the character, 50ish, short, bald-headed, it reminded me of you. So I gave him your address and asked him to get in touch with you directly. I hope you won't turn him away. They will pay you, of course." Potol Babu had not expected such news early in the morning. That an offer to act in a film could come to a 52-year-old non-entity like him was beyond his wildest dreams. "Well, yes or no?" asked Nishikanto Babu. "I believe you did some acting on the stage at one time." "That's true," said Potol Babu. "I really don't see why I should say no. But let's talk to your brother-in-law first and find out some details. What's his name?" "Naresh. Naresh Dutt. He is about 30, a strapping young fellow. He said he would be here around 10:30. In the market, Potol Babu mixed up his wife's orders and bought red chilies instead of onion seeds. And he quite forgot about the aubergines. This was not surprising. At one time, Potol Babu had a real passion for the stage. In fact, it verged on obsession. In jatras, in amateur theatricals, in plays put up by the club in his neighborhood, Potol Babu was always in demand. His name had appeared in handbills on countless occasions. Once it appeared in bold type near the top, Shitalakanto Ray, Potol Babu, in the role of Parasar. Indeed, there was a time when people bought tickets especially to see him. That was when he used to live in Kachrapada. He had a job in the railway factory there. In 1934, he was offered higher pay in a clerical post with Hudson and Kimberley in Calcutta, and was also lucky to find a flat in Nepal Bhattacharjee Lane. He gave up his factory job and came to Calcutta with his wife. The sailing was smooth for some years, and Potol Babu was in his boss's good books. In 1943, when he was just toying with the idea of starting a club in his neighborhood, sudden retrenchment in his office due to the war cost him his 9-year-old job. Ever since then, Potol Babu had struggled to make a living. At first, he opened a variety store, which he had to wind up after 5 years. Then he had a job in a Bengali firm, which he gave up in disgust when his boss began to treat him in too high-handed a fashion. Then, for 10 long years, starting as an insurance salesman, Potol Babu tried every means of earning a livelihood without ever succeeding in improving his lot. Of late, he had been paying regular visits to a small establishment dealing in scrap iron, where a cousin of his had promised him a job. And acting, that had become a thing of the remote past, something which he recalled at times with a sigh. Endowed with a wonderful memory, Potol Babu would still reel off lines from some of the best parts he had played. Listen, oh listen to the thunderous twang of the mighty Gandiva engaged in gory conflict, and to the angry roar of the mountainous club whizzing through the air in the hands of the great Brikodara. It sent a shiver down his spine just to think of these lines. Naresh Dutt turned up at 12:30. Potol Babu had given up hope and was about to go for his bath when there was a knock on the front door. Come in, please come in, sir. Potol Babu almost dragged the young man and pushed the broken armchair towards him. Do sit down, sir. No, thanks. I expect Nishikanto Babu told you about me. Oh, yes, sir. I must say I was quite taken aback. After so many years, I hope you have no objection, said Naresh Dutt. You think I will be all right for the part, sir? Potol Babu asked with great diffidence. Naresh Dutt cast an appraising look at Potol Babu and gave a nod. Oh yes, he said. There is no doubt about that. By the way, the shooting takes place tomorrow morning. Tomorrow? A Sunday? Yes, and not in the studio. I'll tell you where you have to go. You know Faraday House near the crossing of Benting Street and Mission Row? It's a 7-story office building. The shooting takes place outside the office in front of the entrance. We'll expect you there at 8:30 sharp. You'll be through by midday. Naresh Dutt prepared to leave. But you have not told me about the part, said Potol Babu anxiously. Oh yes, sorry. The part is that of a pedestrian, an absent-minded, short-tempered pedestrian. By the way, do you have a jacket which buttons up to the neck? I think I do. You mean the old-fashioned kind? Yes, that's what you will wear. And what color is it, by the way? Sort of nut brown, but woolen. That's all right. The story is supposed to take place in winter, so that would be just right. Tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. sharp, Faraday House. Potol Babu suddenly thought of a crucial question. I hope the part calls for some dialogue. Certainly. It's a speaking part. You have acted before, haven't you? Well, as a matter of fact, yes. Fine. I wouldn't have come to you for just a walk-on part. For that, we pick people from the street. Of course, there's dialogue, and you'll be given your lines as soon as you show up tomorrow. After Naresh Dutt left, Potol Babu broke the news to his wife. As far as I can see, the part is not a big one, he said. I'll be paid, of course, but that's not the main thing. The thing is, remember how I started on the stage? Do you remember my first part, dear? I played a dead soldier. All I had to do was lie still on the stage with my arms and legs spread. And remember where I went from there? Remember Mr. Watts shaking me my hand and the silver medal which the chairman of our municipality gave me? This is only the first step on the ladder, my dear. Yes, the first step. And that would, God willing, mark the rise to fame and fortune of your beloved husband. Suddenly, the 52-year-old Potol Babu did a little skip. What are you doing? His wife asked, aghast. Don't worry. Do you remember how Shishir Bhaduri used to leap about on the stage at the age of 70? I feel as if I have been born again. Counting your chickens again before they're hatched? Are you? No wonder you could never make a go of it, smiled Potol Babu's wife. But it's the real thing this time, dear, said Potol Babu. Go and make a cup of tea, will you? And remind me to take some ginger juice tonight. It's very good for the throat. The clock in the Metropolitan Building showed 7 minutes past 8 when Potol Babu reached Esplanade. It took him another 10 minutes to walk to Faraday House. There was a big crowd outside the building. 3-4 cars stood on the road. There was also a bus loaded with equipment on its roof. On the edge of the pavement, there was an instrument on 3 legs around which a bunch of people were walking about looking busy. Near the entrance stood also on 3 legs a pole which had a long arm extending from its top with what looked like a small oblong beehive suspended at the end. Surrounding these instruments was a crowd of people, among which Potol Babu noticed some non-Bengalis. What they were supposed to do, he could not tell. But where was Naresh Dutt? He was the only one who knew him. With a slight tremor in his heart, Potol Babu advanced towards the entrance. It was the middle of summer, and the warm jacket, buttoned up to his neck, felt heavy. Potol Babu could feel beads of perspiration forming around the high collar. This way, Atul Babu! Atul Babu? Potol Babu spotted Naresh Dutt standing at the entrance and gesturing towards him. He had got his name wrong. No wonder, since they had only a very brief meeting. Potol Babu walked up, put his palms together in a namaskar, and said, I suppose you have not yet noted down my name, Shitala Ray, although people know me better by my nickname Potol. I used it on the stage too. Good, good. I must say you are quite punctual. Naresh Dutt nodded his head. Potol Babu rose to his full height. I was with Hudson and Kimberley for 9 years and wasn't late for a single day. Is that so? Well, I suggest you go and wait in the shade there. We have a few things to attend to before we get going. Naresh? Somebody standing by the instrument called out. Sir, is he one of our men? Yes, sir. He is in that shot where they bump into each other. Okay, now clear the entrance, will you? We are about to start. Potol Babu withdrew and stood in the shade of a pawn shop. He had never watched a film shooting before. How hard these people walked. A youngster of 20 or so was carrying the big instrument on his shoulder. must weigh at least 60 pounds. But what about his dialogue? There wasn't much time left, and he still did not know what he was supposed to do or say. Potol Babu suddenly felt a little nervous. Should he ask somebody? There was Naresh Dutt there. Should he go and remind him? It did not matter if the part was small, but if he had to make the most of it, he had to learn his lines beforehand. How small he would feel if he muffed in the presence of so many people. The last time he acted on stage was 20 years ago. Potol Babu was about to step forward when he was pulled up short by a voice shouting, "Silence!" This was followed by Naresh Dutt loudly announcing with hands cupped over his mouth, "We are about to start shooting. Everybody please stop talking. Don't move from your positions and don't crowd round the camera, please." Once again, the voice was heard shouting, "Silence! Taking!" Now Potol Babu could see the owner of the voice. He was a stout man of medium height, and he stood by the camera. Around his neck hung something which looked like a small telescope. Was he the director? How strange! He had not even bothered to find out the name of the director. Now a series of shouts followed in quick succession. Start, sound, running, camera, rolling, action. Potol Babu noticed that as soon as the word action was uttered, a car came up from the crossing and pulled up in front of the office entrance. Then a young man in a grey suit and pink makeup shot out of the back of the car, took a few hurried steps towards the entrance and stopped abruptly. The next moment, Potol Babu heard the shout, "Cut!" and immediately the hubbub from the crowd resumed. A man standing next to Potol Babu now turned to him. "Did you recognize the young fellow?" he asked. "No," said Potol Babu. "Chanchal Kumar," said the man. "He's coming up fast, playing the lead in 4 films at the moment." Potol Babu saw very few films, but he seemed to have heard the name Chanchal Kumar. It was probably the same boy Koti Babu was praising the other day. If he had been wearing a Bengali dhoti and kurta instead of a suit and given a peacock to write on, he would make a perfect Kartik, the god considered to be the epitome of good looks. Bonotosh of Kachrapara, who was better known by his nickname Chinu, also had the same kind of looks. He used to be very good at playing female parts, recalled Potol Babu. Potol Babu now turned to his neighbor and asked in a whisper, "Who is the director, by the way?" The man raised his eyebrows and said, "Why, don't you know? He's Baren Malik. He's had 3 smash hits in a row." Well, at least he had gathered some useful information now. Naresh Dutt now came up to him with tea in a small clay cup. "Here you are, sir. The hot tea will help your throat. Your turn will come shortly." Potol Babu now had to come out with it. "If you let me have my lines now, sir." "Your lines? Okay, come with me." Naresh Dutt went towards the instrument with Potol Babu at his heels. "I say, Shoshanko." A young fellow in short-sleeved shirt turned towards Naresh Dutt. "The gentleman wants his lines. Why don't you write them down on a piece of paper and give it to him? He's the one who—" I know. Shoshanko now turned to Potol Babu. "Come along, Dadu. I say, Jyoti, can I borrow your pen for a second? Grandpa wants his lines written down." The youngster Jyoti produced a red ballpoint pen from his pocket and gave it to Shoshanko. Shoshanko tore off a page from the notebook he was carrying, scribbled something on it, and handed it to Potol Babu. Potol Babu glanced at the paper and found that a single word had been scrawled on it. Oh! Potol Babu now felt a sudden throbbing in his head. He wished he could take off his jacket. The heat was unbearable. "What's the matter, Dadu?" said Shoshanko. "You don't seem too pleased." Were these people pulling his leg? Was the whole thing a gigantic hoax? A meek, harmless man like him, and they had to drag him into the middle of the city to make a laughing stock out of him? How could anyone be so cruel? Potol Babu said in a voice hardly audible. "I find it rather strange," he said. "Why, Dadu?" "Just, oh, is that all I have to say?" Shoshanko's eyebrows shot up. "What are you saying, Dadu? You think that's nothing? Why, this is a regular speaking part." "A speaking part in a Parain Malik film? Do you realize what that means? You are the luckiest of actors. Do you know that till now more than 100 persons have appeared in this film who have had nothing to say? They just walked past the camera. Some did not even walk. They just stood in one spot. There were others whose faces did not register at all. Even today, look at all those people standing by the lamp post. They all appear in today's scene but have nothing to say. Even our hero Chanchal Kumar has no lines to speak today. You are the only one who has. See?" Now the young man called Jyoti came up, put his hand on Potol Babu's shoulder and said, "Listen, Dadu, I will tell you what you have to do. Chanchal Kumar is a rising young executive. He is informed that an embezzlement has taken place in his office, and he comes to find out what has happened. He gets out of his car and charges across the pavement towards the entrance. Just then, he collides with an absent-minded pedestrian. That's you. You are hurt in the head and say, 'Oh,' but Chanchal Kumar pays no attention to you and goes into the office. The fact that he ignores you reflects his extreme preoccupation. See? Just think how crucial the shot is." "I hope everything is clear now, Dadu," said Shoshanko. "Now if you just move over to where you were standing, the fewer people crowding around here, the better. There's one more shot left before your turn comes." Potol Babu slowly went back to the pan shop. Standing in the shade, he glanced down at the paper in his hand, cast a quick look around to see if anyone was watching, crumpled the paper into a ball and threw it into the roadside drain. Oh! A sigh came out of the depths of his heart. Just one word. No, not even a word. A sound. Oh! The heat was stifling. The jacket seemed to weigh a ton. Potol Babu could not keep standing in one spot any more. His legs felt heavy. He moved up to the office beyond the pan shop and sat down on the steps. It was nearly 9:30. Every Sunday morning, devotional songs were sung in Korali Babu's house. Potol Babu went there every week and enjoyed it. What if he were to go there now? What harm would there be? Why waste a Sunday morning in the company of these useless people and be made to look foolish on top of that? Silence! Stuff and nonsense. To hell with your silence. They had to put up this pompous show for something so trivial? Things were much better on the stage. The stage. The stage. A faint memory was stirring in Potol Babu's mind. Words of advice, given in a deep, mellow voice. Remember one thing, Potol. However small a part you are offered, never consider it beneath your dignity to accept it. As an artist, your aim should be to make the most of your opportunity and squeeze the last drop of meaning out of your lines. A play involves the work of many, and it is the combined effort of many that makes a success of the play. It was Mr. Pakrashi who gave the advice. Gogun Pakrashi, Potol Babu's mentor. A wonderful actor without a trace of vanity in him. A saintly person and an actor in a million. There was something else which Mr. Pakrashi used to say. Each word spoken in a play is like a fruit in a tree. Not everyone in the audience can reach it, but you, the actor, must know how to pluck it, get at its essence, and serve it up to the audience for their edification. Was it really true that there was nothing in the part he had been given today? He had only one word to say, oh. But was that word so devoid of meaning as to be dismissed summarily? Oh, 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 oh. Potol Babu uttered the word over and over again, giving it a different inflection each time. After doing this for a number of times, he made an astonishing discovery. The same exclamation, when spoken in different ways, carried different shades of meaning. A man, when hurt, said, oh, in one way. Despair brought forth a difficult kind of oh, while sorrow provoked yet another kind. In fact, there were so many kinds of ohs. The short oh, the long-drawn oh, oh shouted, and oh whispered, the high-pitched oh and the low-pitched oh, the oh starting low and ending high, and the oh starting high and ending low. Strange. Potol Babu suddenly felt that he could write a whole thesis on that one monosyllabic exclamation. Why had he felt so disheartened when this single word contained a gold mine of meaning? The true actor could make a mark with this one single syllable. Silence! The director had raised his voice again. Potol Babu spotted young Jyoti clearing the crowd. There was something he had to ask him. He quickly went over to him. How long will it be before my turn comes by? Why are you so impatient, Dadu? You have to learn to be patient in this line of business. It'll be another half an hour before you are called. That's all right. I'll certainly wait. I'll be in that side of the street across the road. Okay, so long as you don't sneak off. Start sound. Potol Babu crossed the road on tiptoe and went into the quiet little side street. It was good that he had little time on his hands. While these people did not seem to believe in rehearsals, he himself would rehearse his own bit. There was no one about. These were office buildings, so very few people lived here. Those who did, the shopkeepers, had all gone to watch the shooting. Potol Babu cleared his throat and began to practice speaking this one-syllable dialogue in various ways. Along with that, He tried working out how he would react to the actual collision, how his features would be twisted in pain, how he would fling out his arms, how his body would double up in pain and surprise. All these postures he performed in front of a large glass window. Potol Babu was called in exactly after half an hour. Now he had got over his apathy completely. All he felt was keen anticipation and suppressed excitement. It was the feeling he used to have 20 years ago, just before he stepped onto the stage. The director, Borin Mollik, called Potol Babu to him. "I hope you know what you are supposed to do?" he asked. "Yes, sir." "Very good. I will first say start sound. The recordists will reply by saying running. That's the signal for the camera to start. Then I will say action. That will be your cue to start walking from that pillar, and for the hero to come out of the car and make a dash for the office. You work out your steps so that the collision takes place at this spot here. The hero ignores you and strides into the office while you register pain by saying, 'Oh!' Stop for a couple of seconds, then resume walking. Okay?" Potol Babu suggested a rehearsal, but Borin Mollik shook his head impatiently. "There's a large patch of cloud approaching the sun," he said. "The scene must be shot in sunlight. One question, please." "Yes?" An idea had occurred to Potol Babu while rehearsing. He now came out with it. "I was thinking if I had a newspaper open in my hand, and if the collision took place while I had my eyes on the paper, then perhaps—" Borin Mollik cut him short by addressing a bystander who was carrying a Bengali newspaper. "Do you mind handing your paper to this gentleman just for this one shot? Thanks. Now you take your position beside the pillar. Chonchol, are you ready?" "Yes, sir." "Good. Silence." Borin Mollik raised his hand, then brought it down again, saying, "Just a minute, Keshto. I think we gave the pedestrian a moustache. It would be more interesting." "What kind, sir? Walrus, Ronald Coleman, or butterfly?" "I have them all ready." Butterfly, and make it snappy." The elderly make-up man went up to Potol Babu, took out a small grey moustache from a box, and stuck it on with spirit gum below Potol Babu's nose. "I hope it won't come off at the time of collision," said Potol Babu. The make-up man smiled. "Collision?" he said. "Even if you wrestle with Dara Singh, the moustache will stay safe in its place." Potol Babu took a quick glance in the mirror the man was holding. True enough, the moustache suited him very well. Potol Babu silently commended the director's judgment. "Silence! Silence!" The business with the moustache had provoked a wave of comments from the spectators, which Borin Mollik's shout now silenced. Potol Babu noticed that most of the bystanders' eyes were turned towards him. "Start sound!" Potol Babu cleared his throat. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 steps would take him to the spot where the collision was to take place, and Chonchol Kumar would have to walk 4 steps. So if both were to start together, Potol Babu would have to walk a little faster than the hero, or else running. Potol Babu held the newspaper open in his hand. He had worked out that when he said "oh," he had to mix 60 parts of irritation with 40 parts of surprise. Action, clop, 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 wham. Potol Babu saw stars before his eyes. The hero's head had banged against his forehead, and an excruciating pain robbed him of his senses for a second. But the next moment, By a supreme effort of will, Potol Babu pulled himself together and, mixing 50 parts of anguish with 25 of surprise and 25 of irritation, cried, "Oh!" There was a brief pause, and then Potol Babu resumed his walk. "Cut!" "Was that all right?" asked Potol Babu anxiously, stepping towards Borin Mullik. "Jolly good. You are quite an actor. Shashanko, just take a look at the sky through the dark glass, will you?" Jyoti now came up to Potol Babu and said, "I hope Dadu wasn't hurt too badly." "My God," said Chanchal Kumar, massaging his head. You timed it so well that I nearly passed out." Naresh Dutt elbowed his way through the crowd, came up to Potol Babu and said, "Please go back to where you were standing. I will come to you in a short while and do the needful." Potol Babu took his place once again by the pan shop. The cloud had just covered the sun, and there was a slight chill in the air. Nevertheless, Potol Babu took off his woolen jacket and heaved a sigh of relief. A feeling of complete satisfaction swept over him. He had done his job well. All those years of struggle hadn't blunted his sensibility. Gogun Pakrashi would have been pleased with his performance. But all the labor and imagination he had put into this one shot, did these people appreciate that? He doubted it. They probably got people off the streets, made them go through a set of motions, paid them for their labors, and forgot all about it. Paid them, yes, but how much? 10, 15, 20 rupees? It was true that he needed money very badly. But what was 20 rupees when measured against the intense satisfaction of a small job done with perfection and dedication? 10 minutes later, Naresh Dutt went looking for Potol Babu near the pan shop. He found no one there. That's odd. The man had not been paid yet. What a strange fellow. The sun has come out. Borin Mullik was heard shouting, "Silence! Silence! Naresh, hurry up and get these people out of the way." That was Potol Babu film star, a story by Satyajit Ray. This is Shormishta from Reader's Retreat once again saying goodbye. Please subscribe my channel for more stories, notifications and updates. We'll be back with a new story very soon. Thank you and good night.